Welcome to the Beach House with Mo and Steph. Come on in, pour yourself a drink, and join us out on the deck as we inspire, encourage, and empower one another to live authentic, audacious, above only lives. It's all right here at the Beach House. Welcome to the Beach House with Mo and Steph. How are you doing, Monique?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Fantastic today, man. I'm doing fantastic. Yesterday was Easter Resurrection Day, whatever.
Resurrection.
He is risen. He is
Yes.
risen indeed.
It's interesting because of the fact that on that day, I thought about it and I'm like, we do Easter every day.
Exactly. He is risen every day in my life. So,
Yeah.
People get uptight because they're like, that's not even the day that it happened on. And I'm like, it doesn't matter because he's risen every day.
Exactly. Does it even matter?
So just pick a day to celebrate. It's okay.
Every day.
I'm good with all of it. I'm good with all of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, hey, we are continuing our series on the stories that we tell ourselves. And this time we're talking about the stories that we tell ourselves about success. And I was having this interesting conversation with this young man about starting our own businesses and all the stuff that you have to go through to, just get the mindset to even have the courage to go out and do that. So we have him here today to talk about that kind of stuff, the stories that we tell ourselves about success. So here he is. Welcome.
Woo! I'm here. Come on.
No, it's not Bridgerton.
His
name is Zack.
Yeah, exactly.
He's in the house.
When I get my hair cut, man, I get mistaken for him all the time.
All the time. You don't even need to.
Oh, okay.
It just works like that.
Boom.
Well, this is Zack, guys, and he is our producer.
I am producing this thing.
We don't know what he does exactly, but he does some.
Uploads things late.
But it always gets up.
It always gets up, one way or another.
At some point.
There you go.
We're getting on track. We're getting on track. Things have been busy.
They've been
because of your help. The business has grown exponentially. So
the business is growing. So this guy has done all kinds of things. Okay, so the idea started in my mind because I was talking to my son Noah, who is slightly salty that we didn't invite him.
Dude, he's on the books.
Who needs that guy?
I told him he's on the books, and our people will talk to his people. We don't have no people.
Talk to his people.
We're gonna make up some people.
So I was talking to him, and he was telling me about a friend of his who is also in his 20s, and he was just feeling really kind of bad because he's like, I'm seeing all these people that I know, and they're doing what I want to do, and they're in the place where I want to be in, and I'm just I'm feeling bad because I'm not there. Mind you, this guy runs a successful marketing business with his family, and he's making several $1,000s a month.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Like over $50K a month. And he's
not bad.
He's feeling bad because he's not at this level. And I said, well, you got to understand that you guys are in the 1%, the minority. It's like, look at the people that are in their 20s who are your age, what they're doing. The majority are not owning their own business.
Yeah.
They are not, a lot of them aren't working. A lot of them just got out of college. A lot of them are, just wandering through life trying to figure out what they even want to do.
Yeah.
And you guys are owning your own business. So it's like, you can't get down on yourself because you are so far ahead.
Right.
So
a lot of the 20-year-olds are starting.
Yeah. They don't even, have no clue what they want to do. And it's like, you guys are running and operating your own business. So I was telling Zack about that. And we were talking about his business that he has done. And so, you know, give us a little insight on that. How you started on this entrepreneurship.
How did I even start that? You know, it's really funny because my family, my parents, no one in my family's ever started a business or anything like that. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's pretty just a kind of out of left field type of thing. But thankfully, I knew people like Miss Steph and a couple other people that had businesses, started businesses, and successful businesses that I could at least talk to. And I didn't even really, it was crazy. I guess the whole thought kind of started when I was working in ministry, and I always did video editing just for fun. And when I was a kid in New Jersey, where I grew up, I would do like this end of year youth group video with our youth group, and we'd all like film little clips throughout the year, and I would just edit them together with music and stuff. And I just really enjoyed that and telling the story of the year and putting everything in sequential order and everything like that. And then, so I always just kind of worked on that year after year just for fun. And my buddy was like the editor for the church for all their church projects, and he was swamped with stuff with work. And one day, one of the church leaders texted me, and they were like, "Hey, who does videos for the church?" Because they had one of the people on staff, one of the singers, needed a video for her like pharmaceutical company, and she was like, "Hey, can I have one of the church guys edit this for me?" And so they texted me. They're like, "Who does the videos?" And I knew Matt, my buddy. I didn't actually do videos for the church. I did like a couple other things, and but Matt, I knew personally, he was just swamped with work and like couldn't take on another project. And so I was like, just send her to me and I'll do it for her. And, we'll meet at the coffee shop and everything. And so we were working on this, and she kind of wanted me to show her how to do it so she could do it herself the next year. And so I'm like explaining this to her, and really that's a big thing too. Like when you can actually explain something to somebody, that's
teach it.
Exactly, yeah. And I hadn't even put two and two together that I know this well enough to teach it now. And so I'm explaining to her how to do this, and she was a real kind of entrepreneurial mindset, and her kids were graduated college and everything, but she'd been able to do that kind of through this business and everything, I guess. And she was like, "You really need to think about starting a business doing this kind of thing." And no one had ever told anything, ever said anything like that to me. And I was like, "No way, Miss Gina." Like, I didn't say it like that to her, but I probably said to her something like,
thought in the mind.
Yeah, I probably said to her like, "Oh yeah, great idea." But in my mind, I like didn't dismissed it completely,
Because you don't know how much you know until somebody that doesn't do that is observing you and you're putting it together. Yeah.
That's so awesome. True. How many of us kind of run into that too, where like you do something and it seems second nature to you, and then it's like someone else sees you and they're like, "Wow, that's awesome."
I don't know how to do that.
I remember one time, we were all like interns and stuff and helping out at church. When I was growing up, for like the first half of my life, we didn't have a vacuum cleaner, and like the one of the biggest things that took up most of it, because I had four other siblings, so we just cleaned up all the time. That was like one of our biggest pastimes, was like cleaning everything. And I mean, I'm sure everybody does, but like we swept the carpet floor, because we didn't really have a vacuum cleaner. So we got really good at sweeping and cleaning and everything. And I remember we were at this church one day, and all these interns would be sweeping, and they're just using a broom the wrong way, like trying to push it like a toothbrush. Like, I don't even know. And so one day I took the broom and I'm sweeping, all over the place, and I've got this whole thing cleaned, and I'm like maneuvering this broom. And the pastor's wife was like, "You can really sweep."
I was like, "What?
You are skilled."
And I'm like, just sweep. And I'm like, "What?
You got the sweeping thing down."
It's so funny, like such a random thing, But yeah, like, I feel like we all have skills like that sometimes you need to get around other people in a different environment to be like, wow, like I actually am kind of good at this. And sometimes people are like, "I don't know what my gift is or what I'm skilled at." And it's like, you're just around people that don't appreciate it. Maybe you need to get outside of your comfort zone a little bit. But anyway,
because that's one of the stories that we tell ourselves is that we don't have anything that's important. It's like, I do that, but what is that?
Yeah, that's exactly.
So you don't think of it as that it's something that's natural to you. And that right there is the part that God's saying that's the gift.
Exactly.
And we always think the gift, like one gift. You're actually gifted in so many different areas, but when it's natural to you, you can make that work because it's in your heart.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. 100%.
And like you said, that was in your heart. It's just you see different. Like when you edit things and all that, you're seeing all these avenues of how to make something so presentable that is spectacular.
And
I
you
don't
don't
know how
even
to
think
do
about it.
Yeah.
you
Yeah, you
know.
don't even think about it. And then it opens up, just get into that world. And I'll kind of get into that too, like what it kind of opened up where I saw there was like other abilities that I had. But,
Mhm.
she said that to me. And I guess it kind of planted a seed because I always kind of thought about it. Well, she actually ended up paying me for the video, which no one had ever paid me for a video before.
It's like, hey.
I know. So
Oh,
that kind of sealed the deal where I was like, maybe she was right.
That opens the gate, dear. It's like, I
like,
got paid.
I know.
that
And
kind of looks felt good.
I know. I was like, what in the world? And then she told someone else at the church about it, and I ended up doing some kind of birthday video for somebody, and they paid me. And I was like, what in the
It's like,
world?
hold up.
Like, I know.
Really?
I know, yeah.
Okay.
I think people in the church. I was like, no way. And it's just awesome having a community around you, that they like, would be like, it's like family and friends, like they'll put your name out there for, it like gave me the confidence that I could get started. And so I kind of, just advertised it a little bit here and there, and then I think when I was training, doing personal training at Orange Theory, and then when I got married and moved out to Fort Worth, to be closer to these guys right here, when I moved out to Fort Worth and was just training
And that's a
and
whole nother thing right there.
oh my
You
gosh,
were
Yeah,
yeah.
trainer.
I
See?
know,
that was a whole nother thing.
That was so different because at Orange Theory, it's group classes and everyone that signed. You don't have to go get clients basically, but training at a real gym like Lifetime, you have to convince people that they need to train with you
and trade with
exactly.
me.
It's sales basically.
I can transform your life.
Exactly, and you have to know your stuff, but it's like there's some guys that are fantastic trainers that they don't get any clients because you really had to learn how to sell yourself, and that was a huge skill as well. Like there's everyone out there needs what you have, but figuring out how to get them to understand that they need that is really the battle. And that was something that I really learned at Lifetime, which really helped me out going into what I'm doing now,
But
like being able to study.
how did you get to the trainer part? Because first you were at church, you're doing the video stuff for the church and everything, getting a little business on the side, and then you just decided I'm gonna go work out. I don't.
Well, exactly, right? What else could I do?
What happened?
No, I always played sports and been training since I was like 14, and I needed a little extra money while I was working at the church, and so I got my PT cert. It's something I always thought about doing, and which that was an investment. That was like $1,000,
Yeah,
which was a lot for a single guy working at church. But yeah, so then I got my job at Orange Theory, so it was actually pretty intense schedule because classes started at like 4:45, so I had to be there at 4:15 in the morning. So I'd have to wake up at like 3:30.
That's where they would have lost me.
Yeah. So I had to get up at 3:30.
Come on, Steph.
It was tough. It was tough. That was the first class. We had 3 morning classes. They were an hour piece, so we'd be done at like 8:30. And then I'd get to the church by like 9:15, and I would lead morning prayer. And then it was just off to the races after that. There'd be classes, where I'd be teaching, students, and then, we might have like a chapel service with the high school, and then a service with the youth or service with the young adults. I mean, it was a lot, but yeah, working at Orange Theory as a trainer kind of helped me, pay the bills.
So there was a time that you were like, okay, I'm gonna do this training thing and I need to get certified so I can take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
What was going through your mind as far as, okay, I gotta pay $1,000
Oh my gosh.
to get this piece of paper. But if I get this piece of paper, then maybe I'll be able to do such and such.
Yep. It was so crazy when I got the NASM cert, they said on the thing, if you don't find a job yourself soon, just come back and talk to us and we'll guarantee you that you get a job. What I did not know was even if you get a job at a gym training, you still have to get the clients to actually get paid. I didn't know that. I thought you get a job as a trainer and then you get paid some kind of hourly wage or something. And if you don't get anybody to train, whatever, you still get paid. It's not really how it works, at least not in my experience. But I didn't even need that because this was just the Lord. But I was kind of naive and I thought as soon as I get this cert, I'm immediately going to start getting paid.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
so you're like an independent contractor after that?
Basically, that's what you are until you get signed on with a gym, basically.
Gym.
You can train people on your own as an independent contractor,
Yeah.
But I thought that NASM, the National Academy of Sports Medicine, who I got the cert through, that they would just send my resume to a gym and I would just get hired and then I would start getting paid. But that's
Wouldn't that be nice?
I know.
He was already, he's like, my $1,000 is paid off. No, it didn't.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do you think that's where a lot of people lose it at, is that they think, okay, well, if I jump out and do this, then everything's just gonna flow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. True. It's so true. I think when you do that and then it doesn't happen, you're like, you just kind of panic, and it's like, oh my gosh, like what do I do now?
I'm not meant to do this.
Exactly. And you go back to what you were doing before,
Uh-huh.
barely making any money, instead of really pushing past that comfort zone like we were talking about before and seeing, well, maybe there's something more I can do. Maybe I need to, sharpen some other skills and, maybe just dig a little deeper into this thing. Sometimes you start something new, I feel like, and it doesn't work when we scratch the surface. So we're like, let me just go back to what I was doing before.
Yeah.
But it's like, maybe
Going back to what's comfortable.
Exactly. Maybe
because we think, okay, if it didn't just fall into my hands immediately,
Mm-hmm.
then I must not have heard right.
Yep.
Right. And that mistake right there, that's the biggest mistake in business if you're going to have your own business. Because now, so with that being said, where did the transformation come for you where your mind started to switch over from a job mentality to a business mentality? Because that's a whole different ball game right there.
Yeah.
Because that's ownership over here. Over here, somebody else owns it. And those mistakes and all those different things that's on them.
Right.
But here,
I'm not responsible for that.
Right. So how did that
step out on your own?
Yeah. How did you pull the mindset over to this side? Because once you're over here, it's hard to go back to here.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if you do go to a job, you're still going to use that business mentality.
Exactly.
And that job is going to be getting some serious goodness.
Yep. Yep.
Because you automatically take ownership.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. When I first got the cert, this was just the grace of God, and maybe I needed this like good fortune to happen right off the bat to like encourage me because I hadn't built up that mindset yet. And I feel like, there's always like different opportunities. You always got to be ready for them. Like they just hit you at different times in life. But I was in, the shopping center complex and I saw, Orange Theory and it was a gym. And I was like, I never heard of this before. And I went in there and they were hiring and they just, liked me. And so it was like 1 week after I got my cert, I got hired and that was like an hourly thing. So I was like, yeah, this is just how it is, and I was like, I didn't even need NASM to help me out. Like I just found one, and it was just so naive. Because I was training for a while. So when I moved to Fort Worth, I just transferred to Orange Theory, Fort Worth. And then Lifetime, you guys, I think actually recommended that I get the job at Lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a massive gym. And yeah, I just kind of thought it was the same thing. I was like, but they let me know, they're like, yeah, you got to get clients and stuff, and you get paid for however many client hours you train. And I was like, yeah, well, it's a massive gym. Everybody goes there is probably rich. Like, they all need to get trained. Like, yeah, it should be easy. And it's not the way it was. That one took me a minute. And I think working at Lifetime, that's when it finally started to shift where it was like, wow, I really gotta, because, especially if you see someone like they're like, really struggling physically and, you could tell that they've never really worked out in the gym and it intimidates them and they really need that direction. And it's like, how much do I need to really sell you on this? Like, obviously you could use, some assistance. But even still, it's like, people are not in that frame of mind where they really realize, man, I need help. I need to take that extra step.
They're not thinking that they could invest in themselves.
Exactly. That's the thing.
And it's an investment.
Yep. Yep. And so, I realized really quick, I've really got to figure out how to convince these people that they need my help because they definitely do. But I think what happens is a lot of times, especially with the financial thing, we, our time and our money, I think, really shows what we feel like is valuable. Yeah. And a lot of times they would say, well, I can't pay $300 a month to train, but literally would spend $600 a month going to Starbucks and eating out. Exactly. So it's like you have the money, but it's just not that valuable to you. And like just changing your mindset. So it's
that story that you tell yourself.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, that's too expensive. Mm-hmm. But yet you spend double doing things that are actually harming you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And that was really one of the things that I had to learn, and just dealing with people's psychology and like not manipulating people, but helping people see like this really is. And, it was really crazy because we had this. Eventually, I started to gain clients and, started to do pretty well. And there were ups and downs. And I really feel like I've gotten much better. That was kind of like the first part of me learning sales and whatnot. I've gotten a lot better at it now, and like understanding how to, prove your product and prove yourself to people. But we had this one guy that, he came to me and he was at like 270 pounds, and really needed to get down, like at least get down another 50 pounds or so. And so we ended up training, and man, we went through so many different obstacles. Like his mom passed away while we were training during the course of the year. He burned his feet one time during the course of the year. Like all these different obstacles came, but we just kept fighting, kept showing up every single week. Like I don't think we probably missed like 4 weeks in total over the course of a year that we trained together. And he just felt incredible. He went to his family reunion the year after, and he said every single person came up to him and they were like, "What happened to you? Where's the other half of you?" Every single not one person didn't say that to him. But the craziest thing was he went for like an annual checkup, and he had to have this emergency surgery around one of his vital organs. And the doc told him that if he hadn't lost, they didn't know it was going to happen, but if he hadn't lost all that visceral fat that was around his organs, it would have really complicated the surgery, and might have even made him not come out of the surgery because of all the. But since he cleaned that up, they were able to do it without any complications or anything.
And he took care of it beforehand.
Exactly. That's awesome. That's what I'm saying. Like a lot of times people really need, and they don't even realize how much they need what you're offering. And then you've got to really believe it. Like, no, you do need that, and try not to feel like, you're giving somebody like a used car that's actually got no alternator in it or something. Exactly. Like you actually are giving people something valuable, but you have to help other people understand that and realize, wow, I do need this, because they really do.
And I think that's key to what you were saying, relating to the stories that we tell ourselves about success, is that obstacles come.
Yep.
Whenever you're trying to push yourself forward, you're always going to get pushed back. And it's like people see that pushback and they just like, okay, I got to quit.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can't. You got to keep going. Whatever the obstacle is, you got to push past it in order to get to the other side. And that story that we tell ourselves of, oh, I can't do that, or, oh, it's not for me, or, oh, nobody's ever done this that I know. All those things are going to keep you from moving forward to where you need to get to. So we got to push past that stuff in order to get on the other side.
Yeah, one of the big things that I always ran into, and one of the thoughts that I had was like, when I finally launched out into the business, what I'm doing now, and you have like a bad month, and you feel that fear where it's like, okay, listen, like,
I messed up.
Yeah. And you're like, this is this is real life. You need to go get a real job, because like you have real bills to pay, and you need real money and your
real food.
Like, yeah, exactly. And you have to fight that, where it's like, no, this is my job. This is real life, and I will fight to make sure that this happens, and I'm not gonna quit. And and I think there has, for me, definitely like spending time with the Lord, and having that peace in my heart that, wow, I think this is the next step I'm supposed to take, because my life has just been so crazy, like the different steps that I've taken, and like so many people at different times in my life were like, this doesn't make sense, and you really have to have that inward quietness on the inside. And that's why it's so important, I think, to just have time to yourself and everything's quiet, where you're not distracted, because you really got to have clarity in the steps that you take with your life. Like, me marrying Michaela, me moving to Fort Worth, me moving to Louisiana, me changing schools.
None of those things seem like they make sense at the time.
I know, exactly.
Like, I'm not ready for this.
When I finally me and Michaela started getting serious, and it was like, man, I think we're gonna get married and move to Fort Worth. I was doing the young adults at the church, and we had just come out of COVID, and churches were like, dying all over the place, and our young adults group was going ballistic. We were having like 50. We didn't have any young people at the church, and then all of a sudden we had like 50 young people coming, and these are college age kids, like not high schoolers that their parents are forcing them to come because
they're on their own.
Exactly.
They want to be.
And people I've never even seen before. And so right in the middle of that, when it was popping off, that's when I felt the Lord telling me it's time to leave, which was just, I mean, everybody
like,
was
what?
like, what do you mean leave? Like, now's not the time. We're just getting started. Like, we're really ready to.
It's all in popping
I
now.
know. It was so funny. I felt so bad. I remember one of the pastors was talking to me, and she was like, man, like, this was amazing. You know, this past year, she was like, this year we're going to, you know, put more behind it. We're going to get into the colleges. Like, we're going to go berserkers. You know, this is going to be wild. And I was like,
you're leaving.
I know. I was like, listen, I hate to
Like,
say
that's great. I'm out.
It doesn't make sense.
I know, literally. But you have
But
to
it's
have
what's
that.
right.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
you know what that is, though? That's the one thing I coach on a lot is that when you're going into a transition as far as business wise, you're making a lifestyle change, right?
So,
and so when you're making that lifestyle change, that journey of that lifestyle change, a lot of things have to get paid attention to because you're actually going into the war, right?
Yep.
You're in that valley that God says, I'm walking in that valley with you. But in this valley, we got to change a little bit of stuff. This is when we need to pay attention to your health, like 100%. Yep. You got to pay attention to what you're putting in your body, right? Because what you put in your body registers how you stay awake and you stay aware, right?
So
you
true.
Start to streamline your goals, especially because, like you said, you have Michaela. So Michaela, hi Michaela. She was a girlfriend at this time, right? Or was she a wife?
Yeah. She was just a girlfriend at this time.
Okay, so she's a girlfriend, right? So not only are you starting a business from what you're saying, you have a girlfriend, right? That has to have a buy-in, right? So whenever you have somebody that's either a family member or a girlfriend or whatever, or like even like if you have kids or whatever, there's a buy-in that has to happen. Because when you start a business,
you got
the business isn't
story to them.
Exactly.
Exactly. And the business isn't just your business.
Yeah.
Because you're like, baby, I'm gonna be away.
Yeah, it affects everybody.
Yep.
It affects everybody. So it's like there's a whole buy-in, there's a whole streamline that the family has to do, you know?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like I said, with your health, your sleep, and the biggest thing is that inner circle. That inner circle, baby.
Yep.
You got to trim that mo up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big time.
So true.
Because you're going to get so many naysayers and you're also going to get so many watchers. Like, we're just, oh, yeah, cool. We're just going to watch you. We know you can't build this. You can't even clean your room. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Right? Because you're young. Right? Yep. You're young. So I'm thinking, what are you, 19 at this point?
Oh, he's a dreamer.
Right. I'm trying to think when I started the business, it's only like a year and a half ago. So I was like 27, 26. And then, but when I was this part of the store where I was moving, I think I was like 24 when I just, when I was leaving. So yeah, it'd been still pretty early on.
And then plus 20s. That, you know, you were coming out of the ministry. So it's like, you didn't really get to do anything.
That was like my whole life.
So it's like, you know, this is a different life.
It was a whole different life. You know, it's so funny.
Because there's nobody watching you.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm actually on my own.
Right.
So with that, who did you, okay, wait, let's go back. So you were at the gym, and then after the gym, you met Steph did you start Taekwondo or something?
No, we knew each other.
I know them for years.
We already knew each other because him and Noah, you know, would see each other when they were teenagers.
Yeah. So I know that I was like 14, probably.
Oh, okay. So then, did you do Taekwondo? Were you at the studio?
Yeah. I'm a black belt.
He dipped in.
I just kind of walked in and out.
Got beat up a couple times.
Okay, so then it came to a point where, like I said, you had to start
developing.
The
he didn't live in Texas, so.
Oh, okay. So you moved closer in, and then you started to develop the inner circle. Okay, so it starts with the little circle, then it goes the bigger circle, then it goes the bigger circle, then it goes, you're out there. So
right.
Who was in the center, that small circle? Who was in that?
Man. Well, I guess we'll go when I first moved out here. It was really just these guys Miss Steph, Noah, the fam, Michaela. I mean, that was really it. One, because I didn't really know anybody out here, but two, and this was kind of crazy, but I realized now looking back, um, everyone that I knew, kind of like you were saying, like, when I was working in the church, everyone that I knew was in that same frame of mind that I was in, which is not necessarily a bad frame of mind, but it was like if I was going to do what I felt like God was calling me to do and build this business,
Right.
I had to get around different people that were thinking business wise.
They were used to being told what to do.
Exactly. and even when I got ordained and was a pastor at that point, like in all the other pastors around you, you don't really, you do pastoring and church stuff for so long, like it's just automatic. Like Easter's coming up, that's going to be big.
It's like there's not a new idea there.
Exactly.
We just follow the script.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's like a few different like programs and stuff, but like you can. There's I told my pastor the other day we were doing some stuff at the church, and I was like, there's really nothing we can come up with that I probably haven't done before. Like anything in the church world is pretty easy for me, and I think that's really what the Lord.
That's when you're asleep.
Exactly. And
you're on autopilot, huh?
That's why I had to go.
And it's like you can't grow there.
Yep. And that's why.
Now, did you get any support from anybody on that level?
I did, yeah. They were real supportive, and they gave me a nice gift when I left. And they were like, we definitely don't understand it, but we know that you're, Isn't
that wild?
Yeah, it was pretty.
You don't understand it. It's like I don't understand because you started a church.
Right, you started a church.
It's like you had a vision.
Right.
You started a church. You started a business. A church is a business.
Right.
What is it that you don't understand?
That's the thing, though. A lot of people don't see it as a business. They see it as ministry.
Right.
But it's like ministry will close down if you don't run a business through it.
Exactly.
So true.
And it's like you see that inside the church, and as far as congregation, it's like people think to themselves, well, I'm not going to give my tithe and all this stuff. And it's like, you don't recognize God doesn't need your money. But the church, if you want to have a air-conditioned building, and you want to have lights on when you come in there, and you want these nice, comfortable seats,
exactly. Yep. It's basic.
It has to come from someplace. Okay, that is the business of church. So they're going to ask you for money.
Yep.
Now maybe they should ask you for money for actually what the money is for, and maybe not try to tell you is to do the Lord's work. It's like maybe they might get further if they actually said, we are doing God's work by feeding the poor, by doing after school programs, by having youth programs. All these things cost money. We need you guys.
Right.
I think they get a lot further if that was the case.
Probably.
But
honestly,
but just telling people, this is a business and this is how we fund it.
And if they're teaching on the talents,
but we can't feed the homeless if we don't. If we can't afford
it ourselves.
Yeah. I just wanted to know if you had any support, like within that area, and then you moved, and then closer to Steph and the fam, which that's a perfect inner circle because they're a business.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're automatically getting that dosage in there,
right,
wherever you go. And so then how did you go from Thorpe to the big dog place? I call it the big dog place because that place you can go work out, get you a smoothie,
get a massage, get your hair done.
You can spend $1,000 in there one day if you want to.
Yeah, and that's not even your membership.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Right? So you went from Thorpe to that,
right?
And then from there, how did you jump to? I want to start my own. For one, business, getting more serious about the training,
right?
And then want to do some of your editing and your videotaping and stuff. How did you do that? And give me that story because I know Steph is involved in that one.
Oh yeah.
Season, I should say, in that season, Steph is all over that one.
Well, yeah, seriously, because we were training at 10 a.m.s. 5 days a week. The days that I could do it, at first it was pretty consistent there, but after a while it kind of
he started getting more clients.
Exactly.
He's like, hey, you guys want to train with me so it looks like I have people. So
okay.
I'm down with that.
Exactly. People see you working, and yeah, so we'd be training, and yeah, eventually started to kind of learn the tricks of the trade, and getting people to train with you and everything. But we'd be talking, and I'd be
Mhm.
talking about the business and everything, and I remembered what Miss Gina had told me from the church years ago about starting the business, and I was like, man, this is a whole new place. Nobody knows me. Like, this could be a way to kind of start fresh and maybe do this. I don't even know where to begin really. And Miss Steph would just encourage me about like, just kind of, how they started and, just kind of these things that you guys talk about on the show all the time, not taking no for an answer and, just being determined, and when the setbacks come, don't let them,
just talking to people.
Exactly.
Let
yeah.
them know what you do.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that was really encouraging. I think that that's so important. Just like we always talk about the self-talk that you say to yourself, but just the people around you and how they talk and how they see the world and what they see as setbacks or opportunities. It's so funny now that I work with a lot of the athletes, the Olympians. I love just being around them and hearing their mindset and just like they're just so aggressive with their sport. And in a lot of ways, they're just normal people. When it comes to their sport, they do not play around. They are so awesome. We had this one guy that we're going to shoot hopefully next month. And I was talking to him about time off, when he can come through. He was like, maybe I can come through on like a Friday night. We can film Saturday, and then I'm gone Saturday night. He's like, because I can't miss more than a day of training. I was like, man, I understand. He's like, yeah, my girlfriend, she lives in California, and her family's trying to get him to come out for 3 days. And he was like, 3 days? Are you kidding me? Miss 3 days of training?
Three.
And most people would be like, that's like 3 days, like whatever, take 3 days off. But to them, it's everything because there's a guy on the other side of the world with their picture in their locker, and every day they wake up.
No day off.
Oh my gosh! Right.
The guy, it's so funny because I told Michaela that about the locker thing, and having your picture your opponent. And then we watched that movie. It was a wrestler movie with Jennifer Lopez, and her son's a one-leg wrestler. And he's training. He's got the picture of the guy in his locker. And Michaela was like, "Oh my gosh, just like you said." And
Are you serious?
I know.
Wait, you're jumping way ahead.
You have to keep the image before you.
Have to.
The image before you. But go back to where Steph, how she came into the area of where you wanted to like merge these two worlds together.
Right. Well, yeah, just continue to talk to her like as we were training. She was just kind of helping me understand just the reality of you can start your own business and that can pay your bills and that can be your thing.
And you're like, I
was training really hard and I was like filming myself training stuff and like I guess people started seeing.
Yeah, you were doing the CrossFit thing.
Yeah, I was doing the CrossFit. Yeah, that was it. I was doing CrossFit and I had filmed this whole big like 15-minute video of me training and to have my brother-in-law film it and I edited it and it looked really cool actually. And it was like this whole like this TV episode. Yeah, it was actually pretty cool. And this was just the Lord. It was crazy, but we felt like God was telling us to make a move on a house and I was not making enough money for a house at all. It was because training is just up and down and I hadn't really learned how to have that base of people to always fall back on, and so there were months where I was making like 2,000. There were some months where I was making 500. It was just super inconsistent. And but we really felt like it was time to get a house. So we were real careful about who we said that to because people, will like be like, you're not making nearly enough, and all this stuff.
Oh, you got a whole different side of naysayers on that one, huh?
We've only been married for like a year, but
a little bit more. You're only in your 20s. You can't get a house.
And it's so nuts because
when we got ours, I'm sorry.
I know. I didn't realize that like the Lord was saying, like, of course you don't make enough. This is gonna pull more out of you so that you are making more. And I just didn't see that, So we're looking at everything and we had moved in with Michaela's parents, so we weren't having to pay rent. And we put some money down on a house. It was like basically all of our savings, and it was just like crazy. We weren't telling everybody how much I was making, and that I wasn't making nearly enough for this house. And it was so nuts. Like the Lord just kind of led us because people were like, this is in when we talked to like realtors and stuff. They're like, this is in your price range. This is what you should get. We were like, man, like we really feel like this is kind of what we want right here.
It's like this is where people are getting shot at.
I know exactly.
I don't think I want to.
I already lived through that in Shreveport. I was like, I don't want to go back.
I want to live there.
Right.
And so we were just praying, and this was nuts. But I was working on the CrossFit thing, and I felt like I needed to go to this coffee shop to do some editing, and this was just the Lord leading me. And I was at my in-laws' house, and I was like, if I go to the coffee shop, it's 20 minutes there and 20 minutes back. It's 40 wasted minutes. I need to just stay here and edit. But I just couldn't shake this feeling that I needed to go to the
Go
coffee.
to the coffee shop.
So I go to the coffee shop, and the place is packed out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I should have just stayed home.
Oh wow.
I'm like, I got to share a booth with somebody now. So I sit down with this guy. I'm like, hey man, what's going on? Can I sit here? He's like, yeah. He's like, what are you working on? He was working on something. He's like, what about you? I was like, oh, I'm a video editing. I'm working on this thing. He's like, oh, I need a video editor. And I was like, all right.
Stop it.
I was like, so let's talk, And so we were talking, and his cousin was this professional triathlete that had almost, he got hit by an F-250 while he was on his bike training and almost died. And they were documenting his story because they want to pitch it to like Netflix or something. And they needed an editor to finish the story because the guy they were working with didn't finish.
Are you serious right now?
Yeah, it was crazy. So we started talking back and forth, and I was like, all right. So this was like, we ended up meeting like 2 weeks later, me and the triathlete and his cousin. And we're talking about it. We're like, yeah, I think this would be cool. And then about maybe like a month later, we signed a contract for $2,000 to finish this project. And I was like, that's the first time I'd ever made like some real money for editing.
Yeah.
And, that was nuts. And then right about that time, Lifetime, because I had done somebody's wedding and I was working on the CrossFit thing and doing like little projects here and there, and then I picked up this project and I was like, man, this is awesome. So that was starting to take away time from training. And at Lifetime, right about the time where I signed this contract with this guy,
and he's like, yeah, Miss Steph, I can't make our session today.
That started coming up a lot more. Like, and Lifetime, they had started, and this was all just the Lord's timing, but they had started really cracking down on their part-time guys because I moved down to part-time, and they were like, we need a minimum of 20 hours a week. And that was 20 hours that you basically had to go find clients, because you weren't getting paid. And I was like, man,
Lifetime is the gym.
That's Lifetime's the gym. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I was like, I just don't think I can commit 20 full hours. And my boss at Lifetime, he always said this. He was like, people who are training, they always have these other jobs and they're trying to do that and train. He was like, you need to just go all in on one thing, and then that'll be, he was talking about going all in on training.
He's like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go all in.
I was like, he's right.
Not here.
Not here. Not here.
No, I told him, I was like, Lee, I think
I'm gonna go all in.
Yeah. I think I'm out.
But I gotta get on out.
I know. So I left and I went full on into the editing. And this friend of mine he's got a business and he does kind of similar type things in media. He was kind of coaching me up on some of these things, a couple years older than me. And he was kind of watching all this unfold, and I was asking advice and told him about the thing with the triathlete. And I was like, man, I'm thinking about leaving Lifetime and this and that. And once I did that, I was like, man, I'm out. And he needed some editing done for one of his clients, and that was like it was like $1,000 a month right there. So that was my first retainer client, was this friend of mine, because he heard I was jumping out, and that was enough for me to say, all right, let's start this LLC and get this thing started. And it was crazy. It just like completely changed.
But it all starts from taking one step at a time.
Yep.
And it's like when you get an inkling for something, just going with it.
Yep.
And not
thinking
it.
You okay, so you said something. You said LLC. So by this time, you don't have a contract or anything because you're like, I'm just flying by the seat, right? So what did you do? Like, how did you kind of merge into the legal part of it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I did have sole proprietor contracts for individual clients.
Yes.
But once I got to the LLC, that was when I actually had like a draft from a lawyer, like a real contract, not something that I just wrote up myself.
Right.
And, it just made everything go through the business at that point. It didn't work. Didn't have Zack Jano do any kind of work anymore. It was like, if anybody wanted to work with me, they had to work with Jano Media. And from the start of 2024 on. So that was super awesome. And everything just kind of changed after that. And I feel like opportunities are always going to come, and then you just have to, what's that thing? Luck is just when preparation meets opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been, editing for years, and, I think working in the church world kind of helped hone my craft, and working at Lifetime too, of like talking to people and making relationships and being friendly with people, and then kind of fall in love with you and just want to work with you just because of that. And that's one thing I realized too. A lot of times there's people whose skill is better, but just because they're their networking.
They don't like you.
Exactly. Their network relationship are better, and that's why they get the job more so than their ability, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's people with great skill as far as the work, but they don't do people.
Exactly.
And then there's people with mediocre skill, but it's like they just draw you into who they are.
Exactly.
And so if you can merge those two, where you can be skillful and you can actually show people who you are and let them see you, they'll make that connection.
Yep.
But I mean, you have to just be willing to jump. You know, I just finished reading Steve Harvey's book Jump Again. I think this is like the third or fourth time I've read it. But I keep going back over it because it's so important to just recognize that if you just make a move, because we're so concerned about, is it going to be the wrong move?
Exactly. Yep.
It's a move. It's a move.
Yep. It doesn't matter if it's the wrong
move.
You gotta move it. It's like God is our GPS system. It's like if you're going the wrong way, you're gonna hear rerouting. And it's like whatever you're doing, you're gonna learn something that's gonna take you to the next place that you're going to. So
exactly.
If you can just get into that mindset of I don't have to be afraid to make a move. It doesn't matter if it's wrong or if it's right. If it's wrong, I'm going to learn something and I'll adjust. It's not the end of everything.
Yep.
It's okay to make a mistake. Just make something.
Yeah.
What if it works?
Yeah. That was one of the big things too that someone told me. Maybe I just saw it online somewhere, but like, you know, a ship that's anchored at shore, you know, everyone's always worried about making the wrong move, and it's like we have to actually get out into the ocean to make any moves, you know.
Exactly.
And that was a big thing too, like not being afraid that maybe this won't work, you know. But started that, and then that's 2024. That's when the business officially started, and then we were able to get some clients and do a couple of solo jobs here and there. And then actually one of the craziest thing was a lot of the people that I trained at Lifetime had their own businesses. And when they, I'd been talking to them, and exactly, and that was a big thing too, because I didn't know anybody in Fort Worth. So I think the Lord kind of used Lifetime as a way to build connections. And I just met some really, really incredible people. And we've been talking about some of their like social media needs and different video advertisement needs and things like that. So when I finally launched, I would just hit them up and I was like, hey, this is what I'm doing now, and showed them some of my work. And I was like, let's just work together. And they're like, yeah, let's do it, you know, and like not any kind of references under my belt or anything, but just because they knew me.
What if you would have said, you know, oh man, I made a mistake being a trainer. I shouldn't have made that move. But it's like, no, you were a trainer. You got experience talking to people. You got experience networking with people, and you made connections for your next move.
Exactly.
That's another thing people tell themselves. It's like everything is this is it.
Right.
It's not it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not.
You can make a move. You can make a turn at any given time, and it's okay. You're not stuck in one spot. So get rid of that mindset of fear of messing up, fear of not being able to change. You can change at any time.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And I think what you were saying, if God is the core of you, right? Anything that you're doing, and it goes back to, you know, when he's talking about in the word about the talents, you know, and the using your talents, and like the person who didn't use his talents, he hid them.
Right.
You know, and they're talking about money, but talent is talent. Right. However you use whatever. And so he takes all of those hats that you were wearing, separate little hats, and he said, okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring your puzzle pieces together.
Exactly.
Put them together, and it's going to make a picture. It's going to make a picture. And we don't realize that all of these different things that we do and we've been involved in, and because a job keeps you in, it'll keep you in the one thing. This is it. This is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. That's it. And now, and I've always said this since the pandemic, that it has opened so much as far as just all these different avenues of that our imagination can actually get out of the box and actually roam around and just kind of become something. I always look at it like, I don't know if you did this, but we did this in school. The dot to dot pictures, and it one, two, three, the four, and then eventually, because at first you don't know it's a picture, you don't know it's anything.
Look at that. It's a dog.
What is this? By the time you're done connecting, right? By the time you're done connecting all of these dots, which are all experiences, let's put it there.
Exactly. Yeah.
It becomes this picture, this Rembrandt that God's saying, now let's go.
Exactly.
I'm ready. We're gonna I can use this. I have put it in the fire. You're a double-edged sword now, because through this, that people don't realize, is a lot of healing starts to happen in your life. A lot of trim off, a lot of stuff that you hid. Like, that's where I'm at, where it's just like a lot of stuff now. It's like God saying, now it's time to fly. And I'm like, there's still like little weights hanging off of me. He's like, okay, now we're gonna start eliminating these little weights.
Exactly.
So that you can float up like a balloon and take flight. Yeah. And people don't realize that when you're doing your business and you're dedicating it to the Lord, and the Lord lives in you, and there is no right or wrong move, because he's there with you. This direction or this direction or this direction or this direction, whatever direction you're going, he's in you. Right? So then there is no wrong. He says, I will use whatever it is for my glory.
Right.
And he's going to use,
I'll use the foolish to confound the wise.
Yes.
So you're thinking, well, I don't know this, I don't know that. He's like, you're the one I'm going to.
He's like, I do. I know.
You're the one I'm going to use. Because you were willing.
Exactly.
You're willing.
Not that you knew more, but you were willing.
Yeah. And I like how you're giving yourself the space to heal in different areas, to grow in different areas, because it's a slowdown. Because when you have a job, everything's there.
Right.
You don't have to grow into anything. You don't have to change your mindset. You don't have to go. And when we say change your mindset, we're saying you're going against the grain, because it's a totally different way of thinking. And like, normally people are all going this direction and you're going this direction. And like, why are you going this direction? It's like, because
they're all
what I need is over there.
That's like, going to the running of the bulls.
Yes.
And you're going this way.
Yeah.
The bulls and everybody's going this way.
Yes.
Exactly.
But
and you're like petting them as they're going by.
That's what the picture of success looks like.
Man. It is.
Everything's running this way, and you're just the lone person going that way by yourself.
Yep.
Yes, and that's why what does he say? The needle,
be by
head
yourself.
of the needle is small.
Yeah,
you're going in the head of the needle.
Yeah. Yep.
And that
gate to success is narrow.
Is very, very
narrow.
tiny. Very tiny.
But the thing about it is that gate to success is narrow, but there's no limit on it. There's no limit of age. There's no limit of gender. There's no limit of race. There's no limit of education. You can go through it at any time. But the people that go through it is only going to be a little amount. It's not going to be a lot of people because the majority of people are afraid. So if you want to have success in your life, no matter what that looks like, you're going to have to be brave.
Exactly.
You're going to have to be the one that bucks the system.
Yep. And being brave, I realize, is so much easier said than done. When you really have, like I was saying before, you're trying to pay for food, you're trying to pay your rent or your mortgage every month, and it's like, man, if I just had an actual job, I would know exactly how much I'm getting paid and not be in the dark about will this client come through like we've been talking about for 3 weeks, or but it takes guts. It does take.
It's not for the faint at heart.
And sure. Hey, that's why they make top ramen, dog. That's what.
Exactly right. Exactly,
and that's why not everybody's doing it.
Peanut butter jelly sandwiches, baby.
Exactly.
That's real, because your money
goes at it though
in different directions.
People that they are doing well and stuff, there's always the haters that are talking about them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's like they're talking about them because they're jealous because they're not them.
Exactly. Yeah,
Maxwell talks about that in his book. He talks about how you have the bucket with the crabs.
Mm-hmm.
And you have
picking at you, trying to get you back in.
As you climb out, and that's what crabs do. They will try to bring you back down.
Wow.
And the first thing they're going to tell you is, "Oh, I guess you think you're better than us."
Yeah. It's like, I didn't say anything. Like, what?
God said I could do all things
better
through him.
than us.
You know,
it's like, who said that?
Yeah.
Who said that? He said
where are you now? So you went through your journey. You went through the orange.
Yeah, I'm here. You're in your stuff. Right.
Sit in the room.
Yeah. And so okay, let me put it this way. How did you become our producer?
How did I?
Yeah.
Well, you know how? Because
we were like tripping. Like we had
the fearlessness to say, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I need some help.
Yeah.
Hey, we got it done.
And that's another thing. That's another story that it's like, I don't need nobody to tell me what I can do it on my own. Yep. No, you can't.
Yep.
Nobody trying to reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
You cannot do it on your own. You need some help.
Oh man.
So go get it.
Yep.
Drop the pride and go get the help.
I feel like there's so many people that I talked to just about the business and just like asked advice, and just people that I'd met over the years that I knew had successful businesses, and I just had so many hours of talks with them about like, man, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And like, yeah, you have to.
How do you do it?
Exactly.
How do you do it? It's like, you know what? And it's like you should share stuff. I have people telling me now, you know, how did you guys start a podcast? How do you get on YouTube?
Wow, really?
And it's like, I am no expert, but I'll tell you what I know.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you what I did.
Yep.
I don't know all the ins and outs, but I will tell you everything that I know.
And it's working.
To help you.
Gaining new subs every single week, more views every single week. I mean, it's working.
Because like we started from like nothing. I mean, you know, a lot of people have all these people that they know and all this stuff. We didn't know anybody.
Yeah. Nothing.
After we hit all our family and friends, what do we have? Like 25 people?
I know.
You know?
Exactly. Which is the most crazy thing. Like everyone that follows you and like is subscribing to YouTube, it's all people that just found you online and they're like, I want more of what these people are saying. Like that is pretty powerful.
We're just talking. We don't know what the heck we're doing. But it's like, hey, if I can help you, I'm gonna share what I know.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, you know when it really like hit me was when I came out to Texas and we did the filmings of some of the podcasts at your house so we could all be together or whatever. And you were like, I was blown, but you were just like, yeah, people really want to hear what you have to say. I'm like, what people?
What people?
Right.
What? I'm like, this is conversations that Steph and I just have on the phone.
Right.
And have been doing the same conversations, throughout our lives from junior high to now.
Wow.
And going through the journey of just the things that we do and how God's changed our lives and all our different directions that we didn't know we were going, down different roads or whatever.
Right.
And you're like, they really like hearing what you guys have to say. And I'm like, who are these people? I don't know.
I know.
I don't get it. And then you were talking about algorithms and all these. I'm like, oh my God. Whoa, what are you saying?
But it's like in being brave enough to step out and do it, I'm realizing now it's like God is showing me you do have something to say.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
You do have something to share with people.
Mm-hmm.
All the story you believed was that your stuff was not important.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like you've done stuff.
I mean, how many people have already reached out to you, like off of the podcast, and like, man, that really helped me, or that really, or like you said, like, how did you even start this? Like, it's helping people.
And it's like, they're asking me to speak on their stuff now, and it's like, wow. But the Lord was like, see, all this time you were hiding out, thinking you didn't have anything that you could contribute, and it's like, look. But it all starts with just taking that first step. And that was another thing I was telling somebody, because they're like, well, how do we get started?
And they were asking about the podcast?
Yeah. And I said, just take a step. Just get your phone out and make a video.
Yep.
Don't worry about all the other stuff.
Yep.
Just record something and upload it.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
This day one.
Get yourself used to recording and uploading it. If you have something to say, put it out there. Yep. If you have a vision that you have that you want to do for something in your life, just put it out there. If you making t-shirts, go design a t-shirt and make it and sell it. You know, whatever it is you want to do, just take the first step. Don't worry about how it looks 10 years down the road.
Exactly.
Just ask yourself, what could I do today to go towards that vision?
Exactly.
Do it.
Yeah.
Let God take care of all the rest of how the logistics of how it's going to look. You just do what it is you can do today.
You know, it's so great because I feel like once you do that as well, you find out stuff about yourself. Like, well, I really like this and this I really don't like. I want to do more of this and less of that. And that's how it works in social media too. You post a bunch of stuff and then you see what's hitting. You post more of what's hitting and you stop posting the other stuff.
Right.
And I feel like life is like exactly the same way. Like you don't really know. Exactly. So you start trying new things. I love what you said earlier about like, you know, any point in life, you can make a U-turn, you can make a left turn, you can do what you're doing.
It's not set in stone.
Exactly.
We can change at any moment.
Exactly. I think that's huge because you just get so comfortable. A lot of people can't even fathom what life would look like if they did something different from their 20-year job. If they did something different.
It's like, and they hate that job.
Yep.
But they can't see leaving because it's like, well, I don't even know what else I do.
Exactly. It's like you got to
think about it.
Yep.
Think about it.
Yep. Yeah. And I think one thing like having a job, you know, if you've got like the desire to do something like, you know, for me, like, you know, Michaela was working at Apple, I was working at Lifetime, but I was working on this other thing on the side, you know, and I was finding that extra time to invest in how would this work? How would I make this a reality? And like, you know, I feel like when you really, I think, again, it's so important the people that you surround yourself with, because talking to you and talking to some of my other clients at Lifetime, I began to see this could be a reality.
Could really be.
Yeah. But if you're never around people like that,
if you're around people that only see the impossibilities, like I was listening to something the other day and this man was talking about all of this. He was talking about different races and he was saying that, you know, different cultures come over to America and they get loans and stuff, but Black people don't. And I said, I'm wondering why that is. Could it be a possibility because these other cultures work together? They will have like 10 families in one house and script and save every dime that they have and pool together as a community and bring all of that funding over to start something, and then they all work in it. Could that possibly be?
Wow.
You said a key word, community.
The reason why they are succeeding, it's like there is no ceiling anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, people, if you can find one person who's done it, okay, wow. If you can find 5 people have done it, then there's no reason why you can't do it.
Yep.
We are in every sector. We are in education. We are in arts and sciences. We are in entertainment. We are in sports. We are in the government. We are everywhere. You've had a Black man as president. You have judges, senators, lawyers, doctors, educators,
actors.
Scientists, actors. We're not just playing sports anymore.
Right.
There is a prominent Black person in every field that you can think of.
Yep.
Billionaires.
Yep.
So you can't tell me that we can't do that. It's not possible. It is possible. You just need to work it and not expect for somebody to do it for you. You gotta get out there and do it.
And get around a different environment.
Get around a different environment.
That's an inner circle.
Like if you're only around people that
are like, yeah, man, we never go nowhere. We ain't
Or even they're just talking about like just normal stuff. Like they're just talking about ball. They're just talking about you know, girls. They're just talking like, you know, they don't have any kind of mental capacity
who do you have around you talking about actually starting something of your own.
Exactly. I had this one client and he started this thing, and every single time we'd have a session, he was talking to me about, I didn't even really ask him. He was just talking to me about where they were at with the business, you know, every single time. And it was like, you hear that enough and it's like, man, this guy's the same age as me. And this is like all he's thinking about, like making this thing a reality. And it just changes your mentality.
For Noah, you know, my son, his whole outlook has changed over this last year and a half with our business because he's got a financial advisor. He's got a business mentor. He's got the marketing team that he's working with that are guys that are his age, and they all have goals.
Yep.
They're all working on something.
Yep.
And he surrounded himself with people that are far above him, people that are somewhat above him, people that are above him.
Yeah.
But those are the people that he surrounded himself with,
Yeah.
and now he's pulling from them, and he's coming up higher. And it's like there's been such a change in him. But it's like if you were just around people that were working at Taco Bell every day,
exactly,
it wouldn't happen.
It
wouldn't happen.
And how old is Noah?
There's nothing wrong with working at Taco Bell.
Right.
But
how old is Noah?
Aspire to do something higher, then you got to get around those people.
Yep.
How old is he? Noah?
27.
27. Look at there.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like you're in your 20s and you're running a 6-figure business.
Yeah.
And, I really feel like, because I always wonder, people always said, like, if you're around 5 millionaires, you're going to be the 6th millionaire. So get around 5 millionaires.
Exactly.
I was growing up, I was always like, where am I going to find 5 millionaires?
But you know what? They're all over the place.
They are, and one thing, I think Terry Malfoy said this, but like reading their books, that's one way that you can.
You don't have to be in their
exactly.
All you need to do is be around their birds.
Yep. And it's so true. Like, one, I think you always like I was going through life. I remember this one guy, he built rental houses in Shreveport, and I would just work for him. And we would just talk,
While you're
and
working,
shoot the breeze.
you're talking.
Exactly. Years later, I actually called him up recently, and I was like, "This guy's a millionaire. Like, we should connect and like talk more and like let me glean from him." It's like the Lord puts these people in your life. You got to be recognize them, but then also going back to the athletes, like I think when you really when you're reading the books of these millionaires and you're taught, even if you only have one friend that you can talk to about these things, like me and Noah talk about this kind of stuff a lot. Once you sort of lock in that mindset, you don't really have an appetite for anything other than that.
You don't want to hear it.
You don't have an appetite for, oh man, this is the worst time of year to buy a house, or man, the economy's crushing us. Like, we're gonna have to do this. You don't have any more. Not that you're like better than those people, like you're saying, but it's like you don't have any appetite. And it's the same thing with the Olympians. Just me. Oh. Sorry about that. It's the same thing with the Olympians. Talking to them for like
they can't
2 minutes,
talk defeat.
They do not.
They cannot.
And
it's like, if you talk to me about defeat, we can't talk.
And what's crazy?
I'm on the winning circle.
and I'll tell you this. One of my clients, she was top 8 in the country for the backstroke. She made the Olympics in 2021, and then she was like half a second off this past Olympics and didn't make it. But what's so crazy is you train for 4 years for this one moment, and you only have 2 chances to make it in the back. You only have 2 chances to make it. And it's so crazy because you've been training for 4 years. You have to have that fearlessness to be like, this could all be for nothing. I think this is where so many people get tripped up.
Yeah.
They don't want to invest all that time, effort, money, and energy.
What if it
and then
doesn't
all be
happen?
Exactly.
No,
but
you gotta go all out.
You have to. And these guys, they step up to the plate and they jump in that water, and they don't let the fear of there's 7 other girls here or guys that are just as good as I am.
Yeah.
This is really anybody's race, because at that level,
you have to jump in with my race.
Exactly.
This is my race.
Exactly.
Right.
And we used to tell the kids that for our martial arts tournaments too, we used to tell the kids, if you go in there with this attitude of I hope I place, you already lost.
Yep.
You have to go in there with it's my medal.
Yep.
I'm taking gold, and they got to take it from me.
Yep.
That's my first place.
Exactly.
They got to come for me.
Yep.
But
that I belong here.
If you go in there thinking, I hope I medal, it's not gonna happen.
You will get eaten alive.
It's not
You'll
gonna
get eaten alive. And in sports, it seems like sometimes it's easier to see that, but what I've realized is it's exactly the same way in life and in business.
If you go in there thinking, well, hopefully, we'll get some new clients this month.
Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Grandma's not gonna get signed.
You're going in there with, I'm expecting to get this many clients this month. All right. And now you put yourself in position to where, okay, what things can be done to get these clients?
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
So what is next on the horizon for the Zack Master?
So the next thing we're working with we're actually working with some major studios in Hollywood right now, which is crazy. And then we still got our athletes and stuff that we're working with, and Instagram influencers that we're working with. But the big thing is we're about to start our own interview series with a lot of these relationships that we've made, like with the athletes, the influencers, the actors, and we're just going to be kind of telling their stories, but also you can get some of them on this podcast too, actually.
Sure do.
But we're just gonna be asking them like how they how they got to where they're at, but like just the examples of like, you know, from high school, like freshman year to senior year, what were the steps you took to put yourself in a position to get picked up by a D1 school? Like what were because you know, all of us were athletes, but not all of us went D1. You know, what did you do that was different? Especially if, you know, a lot of times that freshman year, everybody's times are sometimes pretty similar. There might be some kids that are like, well, this kid's definitely going D1, but there's a lot that their times are kind of the same. But then during the course of that 4 years, from freshman year to senior year, some of them pull away from the pack. Yeah. So it's like, what are those things you do? Who did you work with? So kind of asking them those types of questions in all the different fields, you know, the acting, the music, and the sports. And so we're right in the process of getting funding for that to get it off the ground. We got a couple episodes already shot, and then hoping to launch next month. So you'll be seeing us out here too pretty soon.
Well, we'll have them on the podcast.
I know, seriously. When
that would be spectacular.
And put them on there. Seriously, that would be those guys. Having some of them on this would really be cool because they're.
We'll talk about that at the roundtable meeting.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah. That's what's next. So
yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm glad you were here to share your stories and your experience with everybody out there. If you guys are in your teens, 20s, 30s, whatever it is, and you have a desire to do something, don't let fear stop you from success.
Yep.
Success belongs to you. It's yours. It's yours to take it. So don't allow yourself to be limited by a mere thought. Go after what you want. Don't be afraid to fail. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know,
and ask questions.
As long as you got breath in these lungs, you can start over.
Yep. Exactly.
When you don't got no breath in these lungs, that's when it's done.
It's too late.
But as long as you got some breath in these lungs, you can keep going and keep going and keep going to the next level episode. So,
well, thank you, Zach.
Hey, thanks for having me, you guys. Appreciate it. It was awesome. Man, this was a blast. Great to be here. Finally on the beach house.
The beach house with Mo and Steph. And don't forget, hey, if you like the content that you are seeing, please subscribe.
Yes.
So we can reach more people and, you know, share these winning mindsets with people. Because, you know, we're here to encourage you and support you so you can live your best blessed life. So subscribe, like, and share, and we will see you next time on The Beach House.